Every moment, good or bad, builds the story of who you are. From your hometown to your first international flight, every choice becomes a chapter. Never underestimate small beginnings. Imagine your life as a long road, not yet fully paved, stretching into the distance. Every step you take, every failure, every moment of hesitation or boldness lays down a new piece of that road. It's easy to think that certain moments are insignificant, that the small choices we make daily don't matter. But the truth is, they do. In fact, they matter more than we often realize. Life doesn't hand you some grand meaning up front. Meaning is built step by step out of the actions you take and the sacrifices you make in the process of living out your values. What you do today sets the stage for who you become tomorrow. It is not poetic sentiment, it's psychological reality. Every time you choose to be honest when lying would be easier, you train yourself to become more courageous. Every time you act with discipline when comfort calls you to quit, you wire your brain toward resilience. In the field of behavioral psychology, this is often referred to as the compounding effect of action. Small behaviors that shape identity over time. Who you are is not just the result of your past, but the pattern of your choices moving forward. We live in a time that encourages instant results, overnight success, and a constant craving for validation. But anything real, anything lasting, demands something deeper: responsibility, discipline, and time. And in that process, the value of every step becomes clear. For example, think about a person who dreams of traveling the world, but never leaves their own city. It's not the passport or the plane ticket that changes them. It's the decision to act. That single, seemingly simple step to research a visa, to save money, or to overcome fear of the unknown is a profound turning point. Because in that decision, they've chosen growth over comfort. They've said, I'm willing to become someone new. And what's remarkable is that the first step is almost always invisible to the outside world. No one celebrates you for opening your laptop and applying for a visa. No one claps when you choose to wake up and dot an hour earlier to study a new language or plan your journey. But you know when you're building something meaningful. And here's the truth. Those silent steps are often the most heroic. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard wrote about the leap of faith. The idea that real transformation requires you to step into the unknown without any guarantees. But that leap isn't always some dramatic all or nothing moment. Often, it's subtle. It's choosing to believe that your small, consistent effort has purpose, even if no one sees it yet. In that sense, every step you take becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. Every effort is a declaration. I refuse to be ruled by fear or laziness or the limitations of my past. That's not just motivational talk. It's a recognition of how identity is constructed. You're not born a strong, wise, or purposeful person. You become one slowly in the furnace of daily effort and repeated commitment. And what's perhaps most humbling and empowering at the same time is that this truth applies to everyone. It doesn't matter where you were born, how much you have, or who supports you. What matters is the road you're building under your own feet. Each stone you lay, each action you take, especially when no one's watching, carries the weight of future possibility. So when you find yourself wondering if you're on the right path, ask yourself this: what kind of road am I paving today? Because everything in your life, everything is a reflection of the steps you're taking now. Don't wait for a perfect moment to begin. Begin now, one step, then another, and then keep going. Small steps taken with purpose change everything. Heartbreaks, failures, and setbacks aren't roadblocks, they're redirections. Everything in your life, even the difficult moments, are preparing you for something greater. Let your scars remind you that you survived, and kept moving forward. There's a difficult truth that many people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Pain is not optional. Suffering in one form or another is embedded into the fabric of life itself. Whether it comes to loss, betrayal, failure, or even the internal struggle between who you are and who you want to become, pain is inevitable. And yet, despite this, we're conditioned to treat it as a mistake, as something to be numbed, escaped, or ignored. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Pain isn't your enemy. In many ways, it's one of the most honest and necessary forces in your life. Pain, when it arrives in our lives, often feels like an unwelcome guest, disruptive, overwhelming, and hard to understand. But pain, if we let it speak honestly, also has the power to reveal. It strips away illusion about control, about certainty, about who we thought we were. It draws our attention to where we are vulnerable, where we may have been avoiding the truth, and where our values might need strengthening. That may sound difficult to accept, and it is, but it's also the starting point for something deeply meaningful. In clinical psychology, there's a concept known as post-traumatic growth. It refers to the way some individuals, after experiencing profound hardship, don't just recover, they emerge with deeper insight, greater resilience, and a renewed sense of purpose. Not because the pain was desirable, but because in choosing to face it honestly, they found meaning in it. Pain, in this sense, becomes not just something to endure, but something to learn from. It's not about glorifying suffering. It's about recognizing that under the right conditions, it can refine us. Ellie, of course, not all suffering is redemptive. Some experiences, especially those caused by injustice or cruelty, can leave lasting wounds. But even then, there is a quiet strength in the choice to heal, to rebuild, and to carry what you've been through with dignity. The type of pain that leads to growth often comes when you step outside your comfort zone, when you choose to change, to grieve, to confront something difficult with your eyes open. That kind of pain is not destructive, it's formative. It's the soil where character is grown. Think about the times in your life when you were shaped most deeply. Were those moments comfortable? Were they predictable? Or did they stretch you emotionally, spiritually, even physically, until you could no longer return to who you were before? The reality is, most of us are changed not by ease, but by challenge. When something breaks open inside us, whether from loss, transition, or deep reflection, we're presented with a choice to withdraw or to grow. And the path of growth is rarely easy. It requires that you sit with difficult feelings, that you listen to your inner life instead of numbing it, that you accept what cannot be changed, and then do what you can with what remains. Great thinkers, Nietzsche, Viktor Frankl, Jung, all pointed to this. The possibility of finding strength in struggle and meaning in adversity, not as abstract philosophy, but as a lived truth. They understood that while we cannot always choose what happens to us, we can choose how we respond, and that response can shape the entire direction of our lives. The challenge today is that our culture often encourages us to avoid discomfort. We numb ourselves with distractions. We seek quick answers. We filter our lives through screens to look more polished, more in control. But in doing so, we lose access to the very experiences that could deepen us. Because growth doesn't happen on the surface, it happens in the depths, in the quiet moments of honesty. When you admit what hurts and you decide to do something about it. Okay? So if you find yourself in a difficult season right now, uncertain, stretched thin, questioning who you are, know that this too can serve a purpose. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the process of becoming is rarely smooth or simple. It is complex, sacred work. You don't need to rush through it or make it look perfect. You all's the pain and Abernathyne. You just need to stay present to it. Ask what this pain is trying to teach you, what it's asking you to let go of. What strength it's quietly building in you. Hey, the truth is, everything meaningful, courage, wisdom, love, purpose, is forged in these moments. And while they may not feel beautiful while you're in them, they are shaping you into someone capable of bearing more light, more truth, more life. Don't resist the growth that comes through challenge. Embrace it, because on the other side of that struggle is a stronger, wiser, more authentic version of you, one that the world needs. Courage, psychologically speaking, is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. And that is something very few people are taught how to do. We're told to visualize success, to manifest positivity, to avoid toxic thoughts. But none of that prepares you for the real terror of facing something you deeply want and realizing that you'll have to outgrow who you are right now. That's why people procrastinate on their dreams. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't want it, but because they sense at some deep level that real change would cost them something. And they're right, it will. Every meaningful goal extracts a price. If it didn't, it wouldn't be transformative. And transformation is the point. The dream isn't just about the outcome. It's about who we have to become in the process of achieving it. Let's take a simple example. Say you want to travel to see the world. That goal sounds romantic, even easy, when said out loud. But to actually make it happen, you'll need to take risks. Maybe you have to apply for a visa, not knowing if it'll be approved. Maybe you'll face financial uncertainty, or explain to skeptical family members why you're choosing a path they don't understand. You'll deal with loneliness, bureaucracy, and cultural disorientation. All of that might make you doubt yourself. And yet, if you stick with it, you'll discover a version of yourself that would never have emerged had you stayed home. And it's not just about travel. It's about anything worth doing. Starting a business, pursuing art, committing to a relationship, healing from trauma. All of it requires courage, because all of it risks failure. But here's the paradox. Failure itself is never the real threat. Avoidance is. Because every time you back away from what matters to you, your soul remembers. And over time, that avoidance turns into resentment. And that resentment hardens into despair. That's the price of a courageous life. So what's the alternative? You step forward. You look your fears in the face. You tell the truth about what you want, and then you start moving toward it, imperfectly, perhaps, but with conviction. The philosopher Kierkegaard wrote that to dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. That's a warning. And it's a promise. Because the moment you decide to stop playing small, the path won't get easier, but you will grow stronger. And it's that growth, earned through effort, failure, and persistence, that makes the dream worthwhile. Not just because of what you achieve, but because of what you become along the way. You don't find courage, you build it one decision at a time. And everything in your life depends on whether or not you're willing to take that first step. The people you meet, whether in your city or while traveling abroad, reflect pieces of your own growth. Every interaction is a lesson. Everyone you encounter is either a teacher or a reminder of who you never want to become. Human beings are relational creatures. We don't exist in a vacuum. Everything we think, believe, and become is shaped, often invisibly, by the people around us. Whether you realize it or not, your identity is constantly being sculpted by the relationships you choose to engage in. And I say choose deliberately because although we can't control everyone who crosses our path, we do have immense control over who we allow to influence us. And influence, when it comes to human development, is no small thing. It's everything. Psychologically speaking, people act as mirrors. You look into them and you see yourself, sometimes clearly, sometimes distorted. The friends you spend time with, the mentors you admire, the people you argue with, the ones you envy or avoid, all of them reflect something back to you about who you are or who you might become. If you surround yourself with people who speak truth, who strive toward order, who are disciplined, honest, and courageous, you begin to internalize those traits, not because you're imitating them mindlessly, but because we learn who we are, partly by watching others navigate life. In this way, every relationship becomes a form of psychological training. But there's a dark side to this too. If you spend enough time with people who lie, complain, avoid responsibility, or make excuses for mediocrity, it will change you. You might not notice it at first, but the effect is cumulative. You start to lower your standards. You compromise. You tolerate things you once said you never would. And slowly, you become a smaller version of yourself. Someone you wouldn't have chosen to be, but someone you became through neglect. That's why the company you keep is not just a social decision, it's a moral and existential one. Because every relationship either strengthens your aim or distorts it. And your aim, your central direction in life, is the most important thing you possess. If you lose that, you lose your sense of meaning. You drift. And human beings are not built to drift. We're built to strive, to move forward towards something higher. But to do that well, we need people who challenge us, who call us out when we're being dishonest, remind us of our values when we forget them, who help us become dangerous in the best way, capable, competent, awake. You also need to become that kind of person for others. This is not a one-way exchange. If you want strong people around you, you need to become someone they can trust, someone who speaks truth and lives it. You become part of a feedback loop of mutual growth. That's when relationships truly become powerful. Not just emotionally satisfying, but transformative in a deep spiritual sense. Now, not every person you meet will fit into that category. Some people will come into your life to test you, to show you what you need to avoid, or to reveal your blind spots. And that's valuable too, if you're paying attention. Not every difficult relationship is toxic. Sometimes it's a mirror showing you where you need to mature. The key is to discern the difference between people who challenge you to grow and people who drain your soul. That's not always easy, but it's necessary. And then there's another layer. At some point, you realize that the people you once depended on may no longer align with the life you're trying to build. That realization hurts. It can feel like betrayal or abandonment. But really, it's evolution. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. You don't have to shrink yourself to maintain relationships that no longer serve your growth. You can love people and still choose distance. You can honor your past without sacrificing your future. That's not selfish, it's responsible, it's adult. So if you want to take your life seriously, look at who's around you. Who are you allowing to shape your thoughts, your habits, your self-perception? Are they calling you higher or pulling you lower? And what kind of mirror are you being for them? Surround yourself with people who demand your greatness and then rise to meet it. Everything in your life belongs to you. You have the pen. Whether you're building a travel brand or healing from loss, you decide the meaning. Your story has value, and the world is waiting to hear it. There comes a moment in every person's life when they are forced to confront a daunting reality. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not the system, not your government, not even your friends. At the end of the day, it's on you. Your future, your stability, your integrity, it all rests on the shoulders of the one person you have full access to and full responsibility for you now. That can feel terrifying, especially if you've grown up in a world that encourages dependency on institutions, on trends, on constant validation. We're told that someone out there must have the answers, that surely there's a plan, a safety net, an authority who knows better. But the truth is, most people are just improvising. They're as lost, confused, and vulnerable as you are. And once you really understand that, once you stop waiting for permission or certainty, something liberating happens. You realize you are free to take full ownership of your life. That kind of responsibility is not a burden. It's the foundation of real power. The more you accept that your life is your job, the more capable you become. You start asking different questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But what can I do with this? Not, who's going to fix this? But what am I willing to take on? That shift in mindset, subtle as it may seem, is the beginning of psychological adulthood. It's the point at which you stop outsourcing your agency, building an internal structure that leads to actual, grounded growth. Responsibility sharpens you. It forces you to wrestle with your own contradictions. It doesn't allow you to lie to yourself for long because the inactions are visible. When you start taking yourself seriously, you start noticing where you're full of excuses, where you're wasting time, where you're blaming others to avoid facing your own potential. And it's humbling, but it's also deeply empowering because it means that every part of your life can change if you change. Philosophers and psychologists alike, Carl Jung wrote that the greatest burden a child can bear is the unlived life of their parents. That's a heavy thought, but it points to something critical. If you don't take responsibility for your own becoming, you will unconsciously act out the patterns of those who came before you. And those patterns may not be wise. They may not be healthy. They may not be yours. But responsibility subvers that inheritance. It says, I will not continue this blindly. I will examine, decide, and take the consequences of my own path. That doesn't mean the road is easy. In fact, it's often lonelier and more difficult than the one that avoids responsibility. But it's the only road that leads to freedom. When you build your life on responsibility, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You become someone others can rely on. Someone who speaks with weight, who acts with purpose, who knows that stability is not something you find. It's something you create. And here's something worth noting. You don't need to take on everything at once. Start small. Clean up your habits. Speak the truth, even when it costs you. Do the thing you've been putting off. Set one part of your life in order. That's how you build momentum. Each act of responsibility is a brick in the structure of a meaningful life. And once that structure starts rising, you realize that the strength you were waiting for was never outside you. It was being forged in the fire of your own consistent effort. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest and committed. That's what separates those who drift from those who lead. That's what turns intention into action. The life you want is waiting, but it won't build itself. Own it. Build it. Live it.